Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. In this video, I'm going to endeavor to explain the Exo Zombies storyline and how it relates to the map Carrier. There are a lot of questions that people have about various things such as the intro and outro cutscenes and overall what exactly is going on in the story, and I feel like I have the answers that you are looking for. We're going to be doing quite a bit of jumping around between various clips and pieces of audio and things like that, so buckle up, like the video, and let's get started. First of all, let's look at the Carrier intro.
One shot to the head.
So Lennox shoots Oz in the head. You can see the bullet wound there, and we see it a bit later on as well. But the important thing is this shot. Inside the frame here, we can see Lilith, obviously, and Oz as he's falling down to the ground. But the interesting thing is the tattoo on his arm. I had a massive discussion on Skype with my buddy LM, Lonely Mailbox, and he talked to me a little bit about this tattoo. I talked to him about pretty much all of my ideas for the Exo Zombies storyline and what it all means. At first, I didn't really click with the idea of it being a Sentinel tattoo. I thought that it wasn't really the right shape. And generally, I didn't really know why Oz would have a Sentinel tattoo on his arm in the first place. However, as the conversation went on between LM and I explained more of my thoughts about the story, the idea grew on me, and so I went into Photoshop and shrunk down a Sentinel logo to be a matching size to the tattoo on Oz's arm. This really changed my outlook because, in my opinion, it's a very, very close match. So I began to think, why would he have a Sentinel tattoo on his arm? And the first thing I thought of was, maybe in the past, he worked for Sentinel. Maybe that's a possibility. I said to LM, Oz doesn't even work for them, talking about Atlas, that is. And instead, it's sort of a ruse. They capture a Sentinel soldier or something and make him think he's a janitor, hence the tat, hence the war comments. By war comments, by the way, I'm referring to the character quotes from Oz on the map Outbreak, where he talks about various weird wars that he's been in, but doesn't actually name any of them. So that's what I posted to LM on June the 4th. It's now the 11th, and I have changed my mind a little bit, but I still think that some of the things I said are spot on, bang on the money. However, in order for me to explain it and have you guys actually understand, we need to watch the Carrier intro once more and go a little further into it, because there's a quote from Lennox which is super interesting.
One shot to the head. My head. And the fog lifted. His name is Lennox. Works for Sentinel. They think they're the good guys.
You bastard! You shot Oz!
That thing you call Oz? He's the source of the infection.
Here we learn that Oz is the source of the infection.
A bullet's not gonna stop him.
Then we learn that for some reason, even if you shoot Oz in the head, it won't kill him.
What the fuck are you talking about? The man is dead.
Well, so were you once. And you. And you. You see a pattern here?
Lennox then goes on to really rock the boat and says that Decker, Mr. Khan, and Lilith have all been dead before somehow. So in just a moment, I'm going to reveal my grand theory about the Exo Zombies storyline. Before we jump in, I'd like to recommend you like the video, and also say that now that I've posted this, there'll no doubt be plenty of YouTube copycats making crappy knockoff versions of this video and posting it on their own channels, but hopefully you wonderful viewers will see those terrible people for what they truly are and will stop watching their videos. A while before the events of Outbreak, the first Exo Zombies map, Oz used to work for Sentinel. This is why Oz has a Sentinel tattoo on his arm. At some point during his time at Sentinel, he was actually captured by Atlas and was being held as a prisoner of war. He became infected, and he was actually the first person to turn into a zombie with this particular type of infection that we know as the zombies virus in Exo Zombies. So Oz is patient 0. Oz seems to have two forms, his zombie side and his regular human side. When he's a human, he has memories, but they're very vague and distant and ambiguous, and he doesn't really have coherent thoughts about things. When he's a zombie, any coherence that his thoughts might have had before become even more suppressed. This is why in Outbreak, the map, when Oz is talking about his past, it's extremely muddled, and it's also why he doesn't mention the fact that he used to work for Sentinel. None of the 4 characters know, and that includes Oz. He doesn't know it either. Upon becoming the first host of the infection, his brain gets messed up, seemingly, and This is what causes him to be confused about certain things that have happened in his history, and makes him a perfect target for further Atlas testing. Also, Oz might not even be his actual name. OZ, Original Zombie? This could have been a tag that Atlas gave to him to make it easier to distinguish between him and the other people they were testing on. So, to reiterate the story so far, Oz, if that's even his real name, worked for Sentinel, but then got captured by Atlas. While in Atlas's hands, Oz turned into a zombie for one reason or another. Maybe it was the DNA bomb we see at the end of Exo Survival, maybe it was something else. That initial outbreak is contained by Atlas, and they take Oz to the biogenesis R&D facility that Mr. Khan runs. Something about Oz allows him to turn from zombie to human and vice versa, and so Atlas does this before he gets to the facility, and then at the facility, they brainwash him to make him think that he has been a janitor there forever. They completely try and erase any fragments of memories of Sentinel from his mind and make him think that he is an Atlas worker. However, this process can only go so far, and certain memories stay in Oz's head. For example, he remembers he's been in certain wars, and he also has a strong dislike for the Atlas Corporation.
I fucking hate the Atlas Corporation.
So, what about Lilith, Decker, and Mr. Khan? Well, in the same way that Oz is the start of the infection and causes it to spread, in my opinion, and I was saying this to LM on June 4th, I think that those three characters contain within them something that means that they are essentially walking vaccinations for the zombie virus. And what's a vaccination? Well,
when you're vaccinated, it's to protect you from a pathogen. Pathogens are microorganisms that can get into your body and cause diseases and nasty stuff like that. So you want to avoid diseases at all costs, so you get the vaccination. That involves you having a needle stuck in your arm, and injected into your bloodstream are live pathogens that are harmless, or dead pathogens, or fragments of pathogen. Essentially, a weakened version of the virus so that it doesn't actually overcome you and you don't end up with the disease you're being injected with. So your white blood cells in your bloodstream see those antigens, and they produce antibodies that allow the virus to be combated effectively, and then next time you come into contact with the virus, those same white blood cells know exactly what to do, they can reproduce nice and quickly, and fight the virus ASAP, preventing you from becoming infected.
Okay, science lesson over. What does this mean for Lilith, Decker, and Mr. Khan? I think that in their blood, their white blood cells, for some reason, know the correct antibodies to produce to fight the zombie virus. What the cause of that is, I don't know. It could be some genetic mutation that they've had since birth. It could be something else entirely. But it certainly seems like they know exactly which antibodies need to be produced in order to fight the antigens of the zombie virus. It isn't the same as what Oz has. Oz is a special case. He's affected in a special way because he's patient zero, and that is what messes him up. Fast forward to Outbreak, the first Exo Zombies map. Lilith, Decker, and Oz all work under Mr. Khan in a biogenesis research and development facility. At this point, Oz is infected, unbeknownst to all the other characters. He is still patient zero. It hasn't gone away for any reason, but somehow Atlas have managed to make him become his human form again rather than his zombie form. While working there, Oz, being patient zero, infects other people within the facility, and the outbreak begins. It's actually possible that the entire outbreak on the map Outbreak was orchestrated by Atlas as some kind of large-scale test. We know that Mr. Khan's peers don't like him very much, and so Mr. Khan was sent to become the head of the biogenesis R&D facility in the first place. This makes the facility a perfect place for Atlas to A, send a new test subject to be worked on, and B, on the larger scale, orchestrate an entire outbreak in a controlled environment that they can monitor and use as a test in itself. This would explain why we see the CCTV cameras everywhere seemingly monitoring our every move on the map, and also why when the map ends, you die, and then you hear some comms from Atlas talking about what has gone on. They mention various things, but one of them is extremely interesting, and that's that they plan to move you on to the next stage of the plan. And that, I suppose, would be Burger Town. Also, at the end of the Easter egg on Outbreak, you complete it, and then you assume that you're about to be rescued, but then it gets shot down. Who shot down the Atlas rescue plane? Probably Atlas. They want the characters to get as close to the Burger Town area as they possibly can. They want them to do as much fighting as possible because those 4 characters can't be infected, but the people working for Atlas can be infected, and so if they can avoid getting involved and actually putting men on the ground, then it will be safer for their own troops. The characters make it out into the street, but they run out of ammo, and so Atlas inevitably has to come and save them and transport them to map number 2, Infection, which takes place in and around Burgertown. You'll notice that when the trucks initially pull in, Burgertown is quite nice. It seems like it's a reasonably well-kept place. But once the characters are there, because they're infected and carrying the virus, or at least Oz is, the local inhabitants become infected and chaos ensues. Atlas could be doing this as a way of targeting certain locations that they think are tactically needing to be destroyed or made into uninhabitable zones or something like that, or they could have bigger, grander motives. It's on this map where we first see Sentinel make an appearance. Lennox comes in and shoots Oz in the head. He doesn't do this to try and kill Oz, but rather he does it because he knows that Oz will revive himself and either turn into a zombie or his human form. The reason he says the characters have been dead before is that, for example, at the end of Outbreak, we see them get overrun, and it looks like the characters are killed by the zombies and feasted on. But Atlas comes in and transports them to Burgertown, and suddenly the characters are alive and kicking again. The fact that the characters can revive themselves is a good excuse for the fact that in zombies generally, you have a mode where you die and then you spawn in again, and you play and you die and you spawn in again and you die. This plot device means that makes sense. That is a mechanic that in the world, it is canon. They literally are dying, but then because of the fact that they have this virus special mutation inside them, they can revive themselves, play another game, and then die. You see what I mean? So Oz gets shot in the head, and Lennox takes the 4 characters to the map Carrier, which is on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the sea. When Oz is shot, he mentions that the fog is lifted. That, I am presuming, is the Atlas brainwashing techniques and maybe some of the modeling that happened as well when he actually became infected in the first place. And so perhaps when he is a zombie in this state after he's been shot, he can actually assess the situation a bit better and figure out what his next move should be. Oz mentions the fact that they being Oz, Decker, Lilith, and Mr. Khan, are Atlas's prize pets. They are the key to the Atlas test or the Atlas plan. Whatever it is that Atlas is trying to do, the mission they're trying to execute, is unable to be completed if they're in the hands of Sentinel. Interestingly, Oz does mention the fact that Sentinel only think they are the good guys, so it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out with DLC4 in this regard. Currently though, it appears that Sentinel's main aim is to get the 3 characters, that's Lilith, Decker, and Mr. Khan, who have the vaccines or the beginnings of a vaccine in their bodies, and use them to protect themselves, but also we assume, but we could be wrong because again, Oz says that they might not necessarily be the good guys, but we assume that they also are looking for a cure that can be widespread for the zombie virus. So we then have the events of Carrier, and there are definitely some very interesting things that happen during, for example, the Easter egg on this map. When you go to the desert island, you'll notice that you're actually within a little spherical blue dome. This dome gets smaller and smaller until you're eventually teleported back to the carrier itself. This entire desert island could well be a simulation, and this could play into the idea of it all being an Atlas simulation and test. Why exactly Atlas might want them to go to the island and have to dig and all that jazz is currently unknown. It's completely unclear why those particular events transpiring would be beneficial for Atlas, why they would want them to go to the island and have to dig and then go through the other steps in the egg. It seems a little strange, but that seems to be what we've ended up with. While this is all going on and the characters are trying to complete the Easter egg, Oz has slipped his leash, and in the carrier outro cutscene, we see a very interesting little scene. Oz is standing behind some boxes and says Lily. He appeals to Lilith, and Lilith, who has a special relationship with Oz, hears him and responds back, questioning whether it is indeed Oz behind the boxes or if she's hearing things. Oz then shows himself and growls, and that's the end of the cutscene. Currently, that's all we have for the Exo Zombies story. We don't have any other cutscenes that I can show you or anything like that. I'd like to say thank you for watching this video. I'm not quite done yet, but if you have enjoyed, as always, leave that like down below. And definitely leave a comment too with any questions you might have, because I'm going to be making more Exo Zombies videos in the next couple of days and weeks, answering any queries that you might have thought up with regard to these ideas. There's plenty more to talk about. There are a lot more little things that I think I haven't really covered in this video that require entire videos on their own to explore and things like that. One of them is Lilith's big secret, which I think we're going to see revealed in DLC4. There's going to be a link in the top right of the screen now, which you can click, a little card. It works on mobile as well, and it'll be in the description too if you want to watch that video. For now, though, I'd like to say thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, you're the real MVP. Drop a I am the MVP comment in the comment section down below. The subscriptions and likes and views and stuff have been amazing recently from you guys, so thank you so much. I'm extremely grateful. I've been MrRoflWaffles. I'm your #1 one-stop shop for all of the Exo Zombies storyline and Call of Duty zombies really in general, and I'll see you very soon in another Exo Zombies storyline video. Bye-bye.